Hello, and welcome to the Get Lean and Eat Clean podcast. My name is Brian Grin. I'm a certified health coach, trainer, and author. And this podcast is for middle-aged men and women looking to optimize their health and get their bodies back to what it once was 10 to 15 years ago. I will give you simple, actionable items to get long-term sustainable results. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. All right, welcome to the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast. My name is Brian Grin. I hope you had a great weekend and happy Tuesday. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, hopefully you listened to my rebroadcast of my interview with Dr. Don Layman. Really enjoyed my interview so much that I wanted to put it out there again. And I think it's important with any podcast you're listening to, if there's some episodes that you find interesting, to listen to them over again, because you can really grab information that you don't get the first time around. And I found that with this interview, so I wanted to send it back out. Obviously, we talked all about protein and the importance of it, how getting the correct amino acids is important, what that first meal of the day should be, how to build muscle with protein, and trying to get the sweet spot for the right amount of protein per meal. So we really touched on all the details regarding protein, and I definitely recommend listening to this one if you haven't already. And this one's episode 250, my rebroadcast with Dr. Don Layman. So there you go. Today on the micro podcast, thought I'd change it up a little bit. Haven't talked too much about my routine, some of the habits that I've been implementing into my life. And, again, it might work for some people, might work for others, might not work for others. But I think it's, I thought it'd be beneficial if I just talk through some of the things that I've implemented, and hopefully maybe these are things that you'll want to add into your life. One of the big things that I did add into my routine, and I've talked about this in the past, and this was spurred on by my buddy Brad Kearns and also Dr. Don Layman, who talked about the importance of that first meal. I've actually added in that first meal. I eliminated it for a long time, but I've been, adding in a third meal. For a while, I did their 2 meals a day. I think there's nothing wrong with that. And there are days where I do 2 meals a day, but I would say on average, I'm implementing some type of morning, like fruit, protein. I usually do like a Greek yogurt with blueberries and maybe oranges or things like that. Maybe some cottage cheese. So getting in some healthy fats, some protein, and obviously blueberries are one of those fruits that keep coming up as probably one of the most beneficial fruits you can have. You'll hear Dr. James D. Nicolatonio talk about it a lot regarding having, it's been linked to better cognition, lowering blood pressure, less inflammation, improving gut health, stronger bones, healthier skin, improved hydration. So, yeah, I just think it's one of those fruits. I find that, when we go to the market to try to get them, I feel like it's always sold out. So try to get, locally sourced and organic blueberries. And I've been adding that into my morning routine. I really enjoy it. So that's sort of like almost like a pre-workout, smallish meal. I'd say I've added about probably 500 to 600 calories. I found that, for one, adding that third meal in was one way just to get in some more protein and some more calories in general. I felt like for myself, as 180 pounds, I was under eating for a long time, especially how active I was. So, I always talk about it, sort of track your protein. I talked about it with Dr. Don Layman. Track your protein, track your calories, see where you're at. And I mean, obviously there's not a perfect like calorie amount, but you can sort of get a feel for it. I mean, if you're under 2,000 calories or so as a male, 175, 80 pounds, that's probably under eating for the most part. And I was doing that for quite a while with just 2 meals a day. So either way, if it might be for you, it might not be. You might want to, not have that first meal. I usually wait a few hours anyways. I always come up with this key that I've done for a long time. It's like a bumper to bumper approach, where you're not eating right away when you get up, but you're also not eating too close to bed. I think that's a good rule of thumb. Maybe give yourself 2 to 3 hours on each end. Let's just say 3 hours. So if you're getting up at 6 o'clock, 6:30, maybe that first meal is at 9-ish. And same thing when you're going to bed, maybe you go to bed at 10 o'clock, 10:30, you're done eating around 7:30. I think that's a good rule to start from if you've never done anything like that, or ever done any fasting. That would be a good place to start. Some other habits I've added in. I mean, I've always gone for walks. Walks since I've had a dog for the last 5 years have been actually longer than that, probably 7 years. So morning walks, getting sunlight on your face. I interviewed Carrie Bennett, and we talked all about the importance of just getting sunlight on your face in the morning for getting circadian rhythm going. Helps with mood, energy. So just getting out there, even if the sun's not out and the temperature's not even that great, you can always bundle up and get out there, whether you have a dog or not. So, walking for at least 30 minutes a day, I'd say, would be a good rule of thumb. Hydrating with water and salt. Doing this, you could do this in the morning. You could do this pre-workout. What I've been doing is adding salt with before my workouts, and I find that my performance has improved. So especially if you're someone that sweats a lot, hydration is more than just drinking water, right? You want to add in those electrolytes, and you'll hear this a lot in the health industry, and there's a lot of companies that have come out about it. You don't need to go spend. I mean, if you want LMNT, which is Rob Wolf's company, you can get a little bit of a bonus if you want to check in the show notes, and I can give you a little bit of a bonus to start out and try those LMNT packets. But you don't need to be spending that much on salt, really. You could just use normal, like a Redmond sea salt, a quality sea salt, not just a table salt that you find at the restaurants. So yeah, hydrating with water and salt really been good. I actually add a little caffeine, some coffee, a little bit before workouts, and with their chocolate salt, I really enjoy that. Put some ice in there, shake it up. So that's been something I've implemented. Eating protein with every meal, obviously prioritizing protein. I just had a whole episode with Dr. Don Layman, so we talked all about that, especially for that first meal a day. Get that protein in. And strength training, obviously something that's always been a part of my life, but at least 3 times a day, I would say, is a good habit to get into. I did 3 times a week for the longest time. Now I've just added 1 extra day, so I do 4 days a week, and I've just changed my splits so I could get in lower body work twice a week as opposed to just once a week, which is what I was doing. I think volume wise, if you can get in, let's just say two lower, 2 upper body workouts, I think that's a good place to start if you've never done that, as opposed to just doing a lower body workout and then waiting a whole week to do another one. So that's what I've implemented into my life. But I would say at the minimum, if you could just do 3 strength training days a week, you could do total body, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, or whatever it is. Make sure you're giving yourself some rest, at least 24 to 48 hours. I would say 48 hours would be a good place to start as far as rest. Sleep, obviously I shoot for, my sweet spot for sleep, and everyone's a little bit different with this. I usually go to bed around 10:30, and up at least around 6:30-ish. So, that's, 7 to 8 hours of sleep works well for me. I think for the most part, as an adult, someone that's probably 30 years and older, 25 years and older, I think if you could shoot for 7 to 9 hours in that sort of sweet spot would be a good place to go. And some of the things I've been doing to help with sleep is a little bit of meditation. We've done that on and off. I do meditation sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening, and literally it's like 10 minutes long. So I'm not sitting there for an hour. I had DJ Trahan on, the PGA Tour golfer, and he's become very spiritual and does a 45-minute meditation in the mornings. So I'm not saying you have to do that, but there's not a perfect time to do it either. So again, I think if you're having trouble with sleep, I think this could be something to do at least an hour or 2 before you go to bed. Sort of just helps turn the brain off and just gets you into that rested state, and sort of splits up what you've been doing for the day as to, now I'm going to sleep. I'm going to slow the brain down and, just sort of get into my own little zone here and try to quiet the mind. So, anyways, you want to get rid of any chaos that went on during the day. I think helping with sleep is some type of meditation practice would go a long way. Another thing we've been doing it, my wife and I probably, well, we've been doing it since COVID for sure, but even before that, not as much maybe, but that's cooking your own food. And I've said this before, I think this is probably the biggest health hack anyone can do. You're avoiding um you're avoiding these restaurant foods which are, using these seed oils to cook in. And that's the thing. When you can control what goes in your food, that is going to be a telltale sign to optimal health. And so I think the more that you can cook for yourself, if it's 80% of the time, I think that's can go a long way. So that's been another routine that my wife and I have implemented. And we do it, I would say, at least six nights out of the week. So yeah, you want to avoid vegetable oils. You want to avoid a lot of the processed foods that come with restaurant foods or fast foods, and the best way to do that is to cook for yourself. So I think those are the main things. Morning sunlight, walking every day, hydrating with salt and water, lifting weights. Another thing you could add in, if you've never done it, is some type of like high intensity workout from time to time, maybe sprints. I know people, not everyone's meant to do sprints. One of the things that I did add in my basement is a Rogue Echo bike, which is sort of a heavy duty bike that you can do quick sprints with. And there's an individual, and I'm blanking on his name, but we talked about high intensity repeat training. And essentially what you can do is, let's say you could sprint for 10 seconds, take a minute off, sprint for 10 seconds, take a minute 30 off if you need it. Do your rest as long as you can come back in that 10-second sprint. Do it with the same amount of effort as you did the first one. So there's no sort of a lot of times what happens when people do high intensity workouts is by the time they get to the third, the fourth, or the fifth sprint, whatever sprint they're doing, this could be in the pool, this could be on the bike, this could be, obviously it could be sprinting outside, which I imagine most people don't do, but Brad Kearns does it a lot. I think he goes to a track and does it. But whatever you could use a row machine, whatever you're using, you do that quick sprint for, let's just say 10 to 15 seconds, and then give yourself enough time to feel like you're not almost, but fully recovered to do that next set just as fast and having the same amount of effort. I think that's what happens sometimes in these big classes. I mean, there's a ton of classes in the gym that I belong to, Midtown, and I'd imagine a lot of these high intensity classes, the individuals are not getting enough rest in between sets, and it's sort of killing their performance. So something to keep in mind if you're going to do that on your own. So to repeat everything that I've talked about, but that would be sort of one of the things you could add in maybe once a week. And then you have 3 strength training sessions as well. So morning sunlight, walking every day, cooking your food, strength training at least 3 times a week, prioritizing protein with every meal, hydrating with salt and water, shooting the sleep between 7 and 9 hours a night. Those are some ideal lifestyle, changes, or maybe these are things that you're doing already. Again, it's not about being perfect. Maybe take one thing at a time. If you've never done, a lot of walks, start with that. Just start walking, in the morning. Get up, maybe if you have to get up slightly early, get up a little bit earlier, go for a 20, 30-minute walk. I think that'll be a good place to start. And then, from there, you can add in some of these other pillars. So hope this helps. These are just some habits that I've been implementing. Some of them I've had for a while. Some of them I've sort of added in, like the Rogue Echo bike, with the high intensity workouts every so often. Yeah, cook most of your food. That's a big one. So if you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully this helps. And if you've never done any type of spirituality or meditation, give it a try. There's so many great apps And I think this will help, especially if sleep is something that you're having an issue with. You could do it before you go to sleep, and you'll find it will definitely be beneficial and helpful. Takes time. You got to be patient. You could start with 5 minutes and then slowly implement up. And, for right now, I pretty much, I averaged like 10 minutes. So it's nothing crazy, nothing that long, and just focus on your breath. So anyways, just wanted to throw that out there. Let me know if you have any questions. Email me, brian@briangrin.com. And yeah, have a great rest of the week. I look forward to talking with you on Friday with another great interview. Thanks for listening to the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast. I understand there are millions of other podcasts out there, and you've chosen to listen to mine, and I appreciate that. Check out the show notes at briangrin.com for everything that was mentioned in this episode. Feel free to subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend or family member that's looking to get their body back to what it once was. Thanks again, and have a great day.